Hello everyone to YCL Season 3. I've been playing around with like what my sign-on should be. Like I know some people like Q the Costa Ricans like how you doing, how the kids. I know Matt O'Shea's like you got, or is it what's up Ocean, you got Matt here, something like that. I may call you all the herd. I was gonna say herdsmen, but that's not gender neutral. So I think the herd, welcome to the stampede that is the battle. I think we'll try that. If the comments I get roasted, I might succumb to peer pressure and change it. But for now, welcome herd. We're here with the stampede. We'll figure it out. But I am really excited for YCL Season 3. Last season did not end in the championship, unfortunately. We did make semifinals and got the top seed in our division, so we had an overall good season. Just could not quite get the chip that we wanted to back to back. So we are back with a vengeance, hoping to get our second chip in 3 tries. And with our first pick, let's get right into it. We got Captain Rillaboom itself. And I'm really excited to get Rillaboom. It was 120 points. I believe we had 760 points, so quite a bit of points, and you could have split that up in multiple ways. Some people got like 3 S tiers, like 2 S plus tiers. We went more balanced, as you'll see, but you know what Rillaboom does. It rocks a choice band, it rocks an assault vest. You can also run Grassy Seed on it. I think it's Miracle Seed to power up grass type moves. It gets Swords Dance, it gets Bulk Up, it gets Drain Punch, U-Turn, Knockoff. So it has like just enough coverage to where it does what it needs to do, and then you can hopefully end game with just a choice band, Grassy Glide, or set up an SD, something like that. Like I said, we all know what Rillaboom does. I haven't used it in a full season yet. I had it twice in UGL. And funny story, so before I joined PAC, I was like, alright, I can't draft Rillaboom because I just got it in UGL. And then that season, unfortunately, we had to kind of fold it up because it just was a bad time. And then this season in UGL, I folded. I just had too many draft leagues going on, and I also drafted Rillaboom. So I decided in YCL, if Rillaboom's there, I'm taking it anyway because you never know what's going to happen. And Rillaboom fell to me. I want to say I was like the 14th pick out of 20. So if Rillaboom fell to me, I'm like, I'm taking it. No questions asked. We'll figure the rest out later. And we got Rillaboom. So really excited. Not quite sure what the nickname scheme is going to be this season for YCL. I think I might just go with like whatever, like I think fits some like Captain Boomers or whatever it might be. I don't think I'm doing anime this time. But really excited to get Rillaboom. Really cool mon, 120. And leads us into our next pick, which is Mamoswine. And I know people are like, don't you get tired of drafting Mamoswine? Don't you have any shame in drafting the same mon in every draft? And my answer is no. Mamoswine, it's a brand name. I stand by that. It's like blue magic. I stand by that. And I think Mammo is great for a few reasons. 1, Ice Ground is just really hard to switch into. But 2, it's pretty, I would say, like anti-meta if you want to call draft its own meta. You have the genies running around, you have dragons running around, you have all the steel types running around, and it matches up really well. Most people will get a fairy, dragon, and steel core, and Mammo, for the most part, rips through that. Like there are some things like maybe Primarina, well even that takes neutral damage from Earthquake. Something like Skarmory or Corviknight, Bronzong are some steals that come to mind that maybe don't get like damaged too much by it. But for the most part, it gives you a really good matchup in all of the games that you're coming to. It does give you Stealth Rock, it does give you priority, it does give you a ground type pretty early as well, depending on when you draft it. And if you're gonna draft with me, it's not getting past round 3. I'm gonna pick it up. So got Mammo, not much to say here. Again, you can run a choice band, you can run Assault Vest. You can run, Focus Sash Lead if you wanted to. There are lots of things you can do with Mamoswine, and I think Mamoswine and Rillaboom surprisingly have a pretty decent amount of synergy offensively. Rillaboom struggles with Steel types, of course. It struggles with Fire types a little bit. It struggles with Dragon types. It struggles with, did I say Flying types? If I didn't say Flying types, Flying types. Mammo, in theory, hits all his Pokemon super effectively, which is really nice. And then Rillaboom can deal with things like bulky waters if you needed to, opposing ground types. So they have some decent synergy. So really happy to get Mamoswine with my second pick. Oh, let me go back real quick. Shout out to Braves. I'm really sorry I sniped you here. It was not my intention to snipe you. It was my intention to draft Mamoswine. So take that for what you will. Next up is Volcarona, and Volcarona is a monster. I've never really used it before. I felt like in basically every gen before this gen, where it had heavy duty boots, it required a little too much team support for me. But it's a monster. It does now have heavy duty boots, and I think with Rillaboom, Mamoswine, and Volcarona, those are usually like by themselves mons that if you don't have the right prep or the right, team, they can kind of 6-0 you or really put dents into your team by themselves. I think the combination of these three is really cool. You do technically get defog with Volcarona. I don't know how often we're going to run it. You also do technically get momentum with U-turn. Again, not sure how often we're going to run it. But for 100 points, I know some tiers or some drafts will have this as like an S tier mon. So really fortunate to get Volcarona. We were actually targeting Moltres with this pick, and the reason being is I thought Moltres would be a really great 80-point mon and a really great heavy duty boot user, and then we could use that 100-point slot for like something else like Keldeo potentially. Spoiler alert, we did not get Keldeo. We got Volcarona. But I'm super excited for it. You can run it bulky, of course. You can run like a more offensive set. And I think with Rillaboom and Mamoswine in this next pick, it forms a pretty good offensive and kind of defensive core. Like all these mons are bulky at one side of the spectrum or the other. Rillaboom has, I believe it's good HP, good defense, and special defense. Mammo has high HP, pretty decent defense, and you can throw an assault vest on it. Volcarona has like base, 105 or something like that, special defense, and it gets boosted by Quiver Dance. So not the quickest team so far, but definitely, bulky, hits really hard, and definitely looking forward to using it a little bit this season. Next up is Starmie, who for 80 points, I think is a solid pick. I did not think Starmie was going to last until the 4th round at 80 points. It's just really good. It's base 115 speed. I'm a really big fan of having high speed tier mons in draft, and even more so when you're in a item class draft like the YCL is. There are only so many mons who are so fast, and you can only have one Scarfer. So you can quickly identify maybe who that Scarfer is, or you're bringing Pokemon that just outspeed everything. There's a good chance that late game, they can be your win con, they can help you clean up a little bit. Starmie does have a great ability, Analytic has a great ability, and Natural Cure. It also does give me Rapid Spin, which is really cool. It gets Bolt Beam coverage, which is nice. It also gets Flip Turn, so 3 out of our 4 mons have momentum if we do choose to run that, which is really fantastic. And we do finish our Fire, Water, Grass core, which I don't think is like mandatory in draft or anything. To be fair, I don't think any core is mandatory, but it is kind of cool to have like a high tier Fire, Grass, Water core. Pretty complementary as well. We have 2 physical attackers, we have 2 special attackers, which is great. Starmie is difficult to switch into if you're running Analytic because you do get that boost on the switch, or if you go after your opponent, which if you're switching, you technically go after. So really cool mon, really excited to use it. Blastoise was something we were targeting here, but I did want to get that speed tier as quickly as possible because once you start getting to the 4th, 5th, 6th round, you're really kind of, in my opinion, struggling to get maybe the tiers that I would like to have for speed. So really fortunate that we got Starmie here, really cool mon. And this leads us into our next pick, which is Weezingale, who is slowly becoming one of my favorite Pokemon. I think has amazing typing in Poison Fairy, almost forgot its typing, even though it's amazing. 3 great abilities, I'd say. Well, 2 great abilities, 1 like okay ability. Has Levitate, of course, which will negate its weakness to ground type moves. Unless you have a Zygarde, which I found out in Pack the hard way, you need to draft something that can resist naturally ground type moves, Earthquake. It also has neutralizing gas, so if you're running up against things like Guts users, Regenerator Mons, things like that, it's pretty cool. And it does get Misty Surge, I believe, so that's also really helpful. It gets Toxic Spikes, it gets Defog, which is really why I drafted it. I wanted to get Fairy type, and I wanted to get Defog, and I didn't think Whimsicott was the move, or if I did think Whimsicott was the move, which sounds like me, it obviously got picked before I got to Weezing. It also surprisingly has a really good set of moves. Like it gets Sludge Bomb, Sludge Wave, it gets obviously Fairy Stab, but it gets Flamethrower, it gets Thunderbolt, it gets like Destiny Bond, it gets Toxic Spikes, it gets Defog like we talked about, Pain Split. So it gets quite a bit. It also has pretty decent offensive stats too. I think it's like base 80 or base 90 special attack. So you don't like get sapped on momentum necessarily, and you can usually bring a set of moves that will hit most of the team super effectively or prevent you from just being set up fodder, which is really cool. So Weezingale, really nice. If I can get Weezingale in a draft, I'm usually pretty happy with it. And getting in the 5th round for 80 points, super solid, because I do think Urshifu is in our league. So it's kind of nice to have one of the better switch-ins to that mon on our squad. Next up is Vaporeon, a Pokemon I've never used before, but really excited to use it. I wanted Water Absorb because we do have Dracovish in our draft this season, and we have Urshifu Rapid Strike. And I usually don't run Clerics, to be honest with you, but it was cool to get a Cleric here. A really bulky mon, also has Flip Turn, which is cool, so I do like in my walls to either have Momentum or an offensive presence. I think Vaporeon does a pretty decent job of having both of those things. So it does get Flip Turn, it does have base 110 special attack, which is really cool. I believe it's 110, if I'm lying, I apologize. But I do think it gets 110 special attack, so it's not quite set up fodder. You can Wish, Flip Turn out, things like that, which is really cool. And I think if you're going to draft 2 of one type, I think Water's fine, because I think Water's probably one of the better typings in the game. Not too many weaknesses, some pretty decent resists, and they get a pretty good move pool. You usually get Ice Beam. If you get Electric coverage, that's super solid. Both of my water types have Flip Turn. So now we have what, 4 out of our 6 mons have momentum. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Which is really cool. So I think the team is fitting kind of what we want. We have a little bit of speed, we have some priority, we have some bulky mons. We have decent entry hazard removal. I forgot to mention Mammo does give you rocks as well. So in addition to giving you a ground type, it gives you rocks. It gives you offensive ice type. But this isn't Mammo Slide, so I shouldn't be talking about it so much. Just super excited to use Vaporeon. Hopefully it does what we want it to. I have high hopes for it, and if nothing else, it's a great Dracovish switch in. So I'm sure it can do that really well. Next up is Steelix, a mon that I am on the fence about. So when I went with Vaporeon, that kind of meant I couldn't go with the steel type I wanted to go with. I did get that steel type in some other drafts, which I won't spoil here. But just know I did get it in another draft. So because I used my 80 points to get Vaporeon and not Lantern, it meant that I had to get Steelix and not maybe another steel I was looking at. But I do think it has pretty decent synergy with Weezing Galar, which is really nice. They both really don't want to switch into things like water moves or things like fire type moves, but we do have Vaporeon for that. So even though you're going to see we're maybe missing one of the core pieces that you'd have with Fairy and Steel, I do think something like Vaporeon, some of my other mons really complement that. You also do have Rillaboom's Grassy Surge, which helps in 2 ways. One, it will give Steelix passive recovery, so if I'm not running leftovers or I'm running it on another mon, we still get some kind of passive recovery. It also means that Earthquake's going to do half damage, or people are forced to run high horsepower, which even though it's only 5 base power, actually makes a difference. Like, it does turn some 2-hit KOs and 3-hit KOs and things like that. So it does provide support in that way. It's also just like super physically bulky. So whereas Vaporeon's not so much physically bulky, you don't really have to even invest in Steelix's defense for it to, really tank hits. Like I mentioned, we do have things that can flip turn and U-turn into it. It can also be offensive. I think it's like either 100 or over 100 attack. I've never used Steelix before. I do think I have enough Pokemon that resist ice that I don't need my steel type to resist ice, which is fine. It does resist fairy, of course. So overall, I think for what was available for steel types, I think Steelix does what I wanted to do and allowed me to pick up some other things that I really wanted. I could have gone a little more top heavy and gone with an 80-point mon here. I felt like that was too top heavy for me personally. And you'll see in our next pick, Bolton, who I really wanted. It wouldn't have worked had I gotten some other mons I was looking at, just because I would have been really strapped for points. But Bolton, I like it for a handful of reasons. One, it looks like my in real life dog, which is really cool. So I'll probably nickname Bolton after my dog. 2, it gives me 121 speed, which is super nice. It's gonna outspeed most Pokemon in draft, so when in doubt, I can throw a Scarf on it. It's gonna outspeed things. I can outspeed things and deal damage with, I believe it's, what is it? Strong Jaw. I was gonna say Tough Jaw. Strong Jaw. So all of like the Fang moves are gonna be boosted. It does get Volt Switch. It gets like things like Play Rough. It gets the Fangs, like I mentioned. It also does get Psychic Fang, more importantly. So if I am going up against screens, and I think a few teams are like bulky and have screens, I can run Psychic Fangs to get rid of those. Overall, just a great utility mon, and Bishme the Goat put me onto Bolton last season. I think he did really well with it. It hits a lot harder than you would expect with Tough Jaw, Strong Jaw, whatever you want to call it. And like I mentioned, you can run Scarf on it. You can run Choice Band if you wanted to. It's just overall, for 60 points, I think a solid mon. And once you start getting into like the 60s, 40s, and 20s in this type of draft, you want your Pokemon to have a role, in my opinion. And Bolton has like a very clear role. Like, it's the fastest thing on my team. It hits decently hard. It can be special or physical. So it also gives momentum. So now we have, 2, 3, 4, 5 Pokemon with momentum moves, either Volt Switch, Flip Turn, or U-Turn. So it kind of fits into that mold of like, there will be some matches where we likely can put someone in a cycle of like U-Turn or take a hit, U-Turn, take a hit, Volt Switch, take a hit, Flip Turn, take a hit. So hopefully that's how it works out. That's my theory going into the season. And I think Bolton really complements that. I also, at this point, I think needed like another Pokemon who could resist flying. Because, yeah, Rillaboom, Volcarona, Starmie, yeah, I only had one Pokemon who resists flying type at this point, and I didn't think I was going to get another Steel type. So Bolton fit like a lot of what I was trying to do here with this pick. Next up is Greedent. So Sven put me onto Greedent because it was his Mamoswine switch-in. I think it's like super bulky. It's like, what is it, like 120 HP, and like 90, 80 on defense and special defense. So a really bulky normal type. For 20 points, there wasn't a whole lot in the tier that I was like, I need to have this. But I did need to have a bulky normal type. So I could have spent more points on one, like something like Kangaskhan potentially. Miltank was sniped, unfortunately, just absolutely like between the eyes, sniped. So I had to find something else that was bulky. And for 20 points, like, I know what Greedent does on my team. Like, it comes in, it deals with ghost types. You can run like really cool sets with its ability. I think it's Cheek Pouch. So like when you use your berry, you also get healed on it. There's also one of its abilities where if you use your berry, like your defense raises. So there's some cool things you can do with it, like in a pinch if you needed to. But more importantly, for 20 points, it does give me a bulky normal type, like, for sure. It also has some offensive presence. It's like base 70 or 80 or something attack, I believe. So overall, for 20 points, it actually fills a role for my team of being a bulky normal type. And it's going to come into some matches, like if I'm going up against a Gengar maybe, or a Blacephalon, or a Spectrier. Like it definitely comes in as my switch in, and I'm comfortable with that. And for 20 points, that's hard to find, I think. Next up, Electabuzz, which is kind of duplicative when you look at Bolton, but I do think there are some very, very key differences. So one is their speed tier. Bolton is like just here to outspeed everything, so like when in doubt, you can throw a Scarf on it, probably run Adamant Scarf, or Modest Scarf, whatever you're doing, and still outspeeds most everything, whereas Electabuzz is base 105 speed. And I think that really complements my speed tier as well, because we do have Volcarona who is at 100, we have Starmie who is at 115, and then we have Electabuzz who kind of slides in there at 105. It would have been cool to get something at 110. I think that would have been like a really good stagger for the speed tiers, but we didn't. I also wanted to have something else that resisted electric, because, electric, but also flying, because even though Bolton resists it, it's not super bulky, whereas Electabuzz can really effectively run a Violite. I don't have any other Violite users, so any week I bring Electabuzz, it can run a Violite perfectly fine. I'm not taking away from another Mon's best set. I do believe it gets things like knockoff. That might be a lie. I think it gets knockoff. I didn't draft it for that, so if it doesn't get it, it's all good. But like I mentioned, base 105 speed, it does have a decent move pool like Fire Punch, the electric moves, Ice Punch, things like that. And it can run a Violite, so it gives me a bulky fast Mon, which I think is always cool. Like if you can have a Mon that outspeeds things and then like takes a hit and hits you again, you kind of win that exchange more times than not. So really happy for Electabuzz, and at 20 points, I think most of the 20-point Mons I would have gone after were not available anymore. So there were not very many Pokemon that were like 105 speed anymore. There weren't very many Pokemon I felt like I would really bring to matches. Not to say they're not good Pokemon, just for my team, I just didn't really see where they fit in too much. So didn't feel like, using 20 points there. In my opinion, like when I drafted 20-point Mon, I really wanted to have a role. Like that may be asking a lot, but I do want to have a role. I want to know like how I'm going to use it, where I think it fits in, and Electabuzz I think could easily have been a 40-point Mon, so I wanted to find some value there. And to wrap it up, we have Liepard, who I drafted last season in YCL and dropped it during the grace period. You'll be happy to know that Liepard did make it through the grace period, so it will at least be on my roster for week 1. This is my unburdened sweeper technically. I doubt I'm ever going to run it unburdened, but it does have unburdened. More importantly, it has things like Prankster, which is really cool. Less importantly, it has Limber, so take that for what it is. But I think it's a cool mon. You can encore things that are setting up. I believe it gets T-Wave. This does get knockoff. Also gets U-turn. So we have Rillaboom, Volcarona, Starmie, Vaporeon, Bolton, Electabuzz, and Liepard, who all have momentum moves. So I could literally bring 6 mons who are just like rotating out consistently. Will I do it? You'll have to watch the season to find out. Chances are I'm not. But if I do, remember this video because I called it before the season started. I've yet to play any of my games so far. So this is all preseason stuff for me that we're looking at. But overall, my thoughts on the team, I really do like this team. I think it's a little more offensive leaning. And the defensive mons I did draft, they all have a presence. So like Steelix can roar things out, so can Vaporeon. But they also have like decent offensive stats, like 110 for Vaporeon in special attack. I believe it's 100 for Steelix in attack. I might be lying. Weezing Galar has a really great move pool and surprisingly good special attack, and actually physical attack too, but I don't know if it gets poison stab. So I'm really happy with those mons. Rillaboom and Mammo, I think, are 2 of the better priority users in the game. And Rillaboom, I don't mean this in a shady way, but you can kind of just like turn your brain off and be like, I'm going to click Grassy Glide. Unless they have something that has like Iron Barbs and Rocky Helmet or Flame Body, Static, you can kind of just click Grassy Glide. That can be your end game. You can like chip things down to that point. Volcarona, I'm on the fence about. I feel like people prep for it so hard, it's hard to get set up. But I do think with the other offensive mons I have on the team, it might be like Toxtricity for me in season 1, where like Tox never like got off and like was popping or anything, but it was always just like a threat. Like it made you like use movesets. Like the example I always give is when Harry used I think it's like Mud Shot or Mud Bomb or whatever you call it on Melodic for Toxtricity. That meant there was another move slot that it couldn't use, like for Recover, Scald, Ice Beam, Haze, whatever it might be. And I think Volcarona will be that for me this season, where with Rillaboom, Mammo, Starmie, there's just so much there. Or maybe Starmie's that Pokemon where there's Rillaboom, Mammo, Volcarona, and like Starmie is like the mon that you're like, if this beats me, it's okay. It's kind of like when you leave like a 30 or 32% 3-point shooter open all the time. You're like, if this person beats me, like I'm just not winning the game. Like Starmie might be that for me. Starmie might be that Pokemon for me. But ultimately, I am excited. I got the tiers I wanted for speed. I can use Rillaboom, which I'm really excited about for a full season. I got Mammo, so I can't complain. So I am really excited for this season. There are a lot of great coaches. Please make sure to check them out in the description below. If you haven't already and you like my content, please like and subscribe. We have some really cool leagues coming up. I won't spoil them here. And we have some really cool coaches on the schedule as well, which I'm sure you'll like to see. So please, again, like and subscribe if you like the content. Check out the coaches in the description below, and we will see you for week 1, hopefully in a week from now. All right, everybody. Bye.